Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rug in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug!
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report. The commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Welcome to your feature presentation. I am your host, Heath Fall. Today we are talking about Alien movies ranked. Which ones we like best, which are the best, such. And we're talking about movies coming out this weekend. Today, Mr. Carhart himself, Andrew McKay.
You know me. I love Carhart. I love Alien. That's my whole personality. Heath,
That's all you need, really.
Do you wear a lot of Carhartt, being that you're a working class man?
Blue collar. I don't think I own one Carhartt item. So
now I own your company. That's how that works.
Oh no.
I think
the more Carhartt you own, the more say you have in other.
Yeah, the more
businesses.
stock you have in every construction company around the world. Wow,
bummer.
Well,
cool.
Anyway,
we're gonna get right into the movies coming out this weekend because this is gonna be a great episode where we talk about the Alien movies. We're gonna rank them based on what is our favorite. So we each have our own list, and then we're gonna talk about each one as well. So this is the first time we're going to talk about Alien Romulus together, which I'm really excited for that. So let's start off with these movies here. Which movie would you like to start with?
So Beetlejuice is, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this movie. It seems like a one-off, brand new thing. I'm just kidding. After a family tragedy, 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. Have you seen Beetlejuice?
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent about it.
I've never seen
it.
I've never seen it. I think it came out in an era where my movie selections were still 1988. I was not alive.
I was going to say, this was before I was born, actually.
Well, Heath, you were probably a freshman in college, I think, 1988.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say 88 miles per hour.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, I was.
Never saw it.
Right, I forgot.
It was very restricted for me because I think he's dead and comes back to life, which is a pretty biblical principle, if you ask me.
Yeah, I put this in the same vein for me as like Ghostbusters. Like, they're classics. They have followings. But I didn't watch them until I was well past, coming of age.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I just think Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, and there's a couple other movies that, like, if I had seen them when I was a kid, or I just think they would be more special to me. But it's just kind of like, it's not bad, but it's not my thing. So, if you want to go see it,
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is great. Jenna Ortega, I believe, is in this one. Which that's another thing that kind of, but I don't know. I always struggle with that too, because I feel like she's just someone that people love. So it feels like she's just popping into everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I do love her.
I think she's great, but I know I was going to say same thing with, like Zendaya is just like, she'll just pop into a bunch of movies in a random year. But it's like, well, there's a reason for that. So, all right. What next? The Front Room.
The Front Room tells the story of a newly pregnant couple who are forced to take in an ailing, estranged stepmother. Looks genuinely terrifying, not just for the premise, but because the stepmother is actually horrific and so scary.
Yeah. More of our year of horror.
Yeah.
I'd probably go see that one this week just because of my love of horror movies. And like I said, Beetlejuice doesn't have a place in my heart. I'm assuming you'd be the same.
Yes. Yeah. I believe it's A24. Is that accurate?
Ooh, if it is, that's so weird. I know we've talked about this before, but that's the only studio that gets me excited because they have been so consistent in quality of movies and just ideas. Even if they're not great A24 movies, it's still interesting concepts. Like I've never been upset that I've watched an A24 movie. I've never been, well, that was a waste of time, you know.
They're always trying new stuff. They are the temperature gauge for horror.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's new and fresh? It is A24, and that one will definitely get my ticket this weekend. So,
Sweet.
Alien franchise.
Let's do it.
Oh, buddy. I've been waiting since we started a pod to do something like this.
I was going to say, yeah, Alien is one of the movies that's in our intro, and there's some special love there. If it pops up in our intro, we just like love the series. Obviously, you can see from our backgrounds, if you're watching our video, that Lord of the Rings is a big one for both of us, Star Wars, things like that. But Alien, I mean, this is your favorite movie of all time. This is the original movie.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I just watched it the other day.
Have we talked about your first viewing? I don't think we have. And if so, give us it again.
Wow.
Do you remember your first time watching Alien?
I've referenced it. And I think I'll have to go back and find that episode and listen to that, because it was a long time. I was well into adulthood, like, I don't know, 18 years old. I'm just kidding. I was like through college, I think firmly in college, in my 20s. And I love Adam Savage from Mythbusters. Whenever someone asks, hey, if there's one celebrity that you could like meet and have dinner with today, who would it be? I will always and forever say Adam Savage. So I was watching some videos of him making props based off of Blade Runner. I had recently gotten into Blade Runner, and because of Adam Savage, I got into Alien, because he made some props from Alien, and I was like, he made a whole costume, and he wore it to a Comic-Con of like his iteration of the space suits that they wear in the first Alien movie, out to go check and see like who's sending the signal, basically. So he made that, and I was like, that has to be the coolest thing that I've ever seen. He also got me into The Shining and Stanley Kubrick. I watched my first Stanley Kubrick movie because of Adam Savage. So, I was in my 20s. I think I might have pirated it. I think I watched it illegally.
You hate to see it.
Would you steal a car? I watched it. I found it on the internet somewhere. I found it on the internet somewhere because I didn't want to pay like $3.99 to rent it digitally, and I just fell in love. I don't even think at that point I was into horror yet.
Yeah.
And that might have been the scariest movie I had watched, give or take like one, up to that point. And I just remember every single scene like kept my attention, from like sound design to like, oh, there's music, and that is throwing me off, because the good Alien franchises are like, those movies are notorious for little to no music, and so when there is music, it like catches your attention, that kind of stuff. So I don't know, I'll have to listen back to our episode and see if I list a specific watch, because I think it was just on my laptop in college.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'll get to it later, because I want to bring it up when we go through our movies. I watched a later one, like a more recent Alien, not super recent, so you'll figure out what it was. I watched it with a friend. I loved it, and I still love it.
Yep.
And after I watched this certain one, I went back, like later on, probably when I was in high school, went back and then watched through all of them that were out at that point. Which that was a really fun way to do that. Like,
oh, cool.
So I went back and watched, 1 into 2 and things like that. And it was just like, I thought they were great. I was like, I love this modern one. And then when you love the modern one and you go back and you realize how this started off amazing. This wasn't like, it's an old hokey. I brought this up a couple weeks ago as we talked about how certain movies you kind of have to suspend disbelief for. We brought up how Jaws like the shark looks pretty fake when it just jumps out of the water. Like the whole like we're gonna need a bigger boat, which I love that movie and I love that scene. But it's like it's an animatronic shark. And you go back to 1979, you see the xenomorph, and they keep it in shadow for so long, but it never really looks bad. And just the visuals, I mean, man, when Ripley's running through the ship, we'll get to it. But,
so good.
All right, so we're going to do the Gorley method. So we each have our own list. We're going to start off with we're doing 9. So we're including the AVPs. We're doing all the Alien movies ranked, and we're going to say our 9th through our best. And if it's on somebody else's list higher, we have to wait until it's higher to talk about it. So we're going to start off with, I'm going to start off with my number 9. Is it Andrew's? We'll see. AVP Requiem.
Same.
I knew it.
I have a confession.
You've never seen it.
Almost as bad as that. I had never seen it until 2 nights ago, and I watched it for this podcast because I was like, this is the one of the 9 that I have never seen.
So that's hilarious.
Boy, was it something.
This is the only one I dislike, to be honest. I think there's some good stuff in it, like some visuals look cool. You get to see the homeworld of the Predator, which is cool.
Yeah. That's the only time that's happened.
Yes. And so there's some cool stuff. It's in the lore. And like, I'm one of those people who I love going through movies, go through series of movies. So I'll still watch this one. I don't skip it, but it is by far the worst one. And it's like, oh man, there's so much stuff. Like, and the stuff that I hate about it is stuff that doesn't even need to be there. It's all like the human drama and the kid who gets bullied. And like it's like needless bullying. I mean, bullying is always needless, but it's like, why are all these white jocks making fun of this other white guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's like
they look equally as attractive.
Like they're all white blonde high school students.
Like, what? They should probably be friends.
Like,
I think it's because of that girl. Like,
right?
They're fighting over the girl.
But then, like,
needlessly.
You're like when they throw his keys down the sewer and his car. They bully this guy by throwing his keys down a grate, and he can't leave. Like, how is that bullying? Now he's gonna have to like stay outside your house. Like, that's a weird form of bullying.
It does feel like how they choose to bully him is like just so disproportionate. Like, beat him up, bruise a rib if you're going crazy, and then get him out of there.
Yeah.
But throwing his keys down the sewer drain, that seems like way up here.
Yeah.
Additionally, even more crazy than that is, I'm going to drown you in this high school pool. Like, what are you talking about?
It's so over the top. And I don't mean to say that, like, you know, bullying doesn't have an outside of, like, racism, but you know what I mean? It seems like you guys are all in the same area of life. You know, like you
dress the same, you look the same, you talk the same.
Yeah.
It's the only reason that you're our enemies is this girl.
And it's not even just like, I think my girlfriend is nice to this guy, but yeah, it's literally like, I want to, bullying him by throwing his keys this is now call, like, you know, a repair guy. This is
a tow truck.
This is not just simple bullying. And then, I'm going to drown you in a pool bullying. I'm like, this is like, he's murder. This is not, this is not bullying.
I'm going to kill you. Yeah.
Kill you over this. It's a baffling movie.
Yeah.
I believe it's our lowest rated Alien movie.
It is. Yeah. So
it's hot garbage.
Alien. I know. Yeah. Alien versus Predator Requiem is at a 4.6 out of 10.
Yeah.
By far the lowest.
And it cracks me up. So the fact, because I was looking at this list and kind of making mine, and I'm like, I want to make sure. I was questioning where I was going to put Aliens on my list.
Okay.
And
sure,
it'll make more sense later. But I wanted to rewatch Aliens because that's the one I hadn't seen in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that movie. We'll get how much I loved it in a second.
Oh,
But it cracks me up that I was watching Aliens as a refresher, and you were watching you're watching AVP.
I did a palate cleanser, and today before we recorded, I watched Aliens.
Oh, good. Okay. Good.
I'm gonna get off the pod right now. I'm gonna leave and just go watch another Alien movie.
Alien.
Anyway, so I have two good things to say about Requiem.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
And if you have one or two to share, we'll just fire them off real quick.
I shared mine already, so I got nothing else good to say about Requiem.
Number one, the girlfriend, how she dies, outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. That was that was just such a good death. Like they're what's her name, Jessie? They're running through this building trying to get out. The Predator and the alien are fighting, and just out of nowhere, the Predator throws like an alien shuriken and just pins her to the wall. And there's no last words. There's no scream. Nothing. She's just done.
Yeah.
Toast. And I was watching that. I was like, that death was amazing. That was a great way to do that.
Yeah.
And Ricky's reaction, just like running at him with a gun. That was a win for me. And the second good thing is at the end of the movie when the guy opens the case of the alien gun, and she's like, this lady is like, the world isn't ready for this technology. And he goes, well, so he says something like, well, they're going to have to be Miss Yutani. And Yutani. So like brings in the company, that eventually merges with Wayland into the picture. So I liked that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. There's definitely like lore stuff in these movies for sure. Which is kind of cool. And the funniest part too is it doesn't like contradict canon for Alien movies, but it's weird that they kind of just like, with where we are in the timeline, these are the first things that happen is AVP, the AVP 1 and 2. And apparently the Aliens and Predator have been coming here since like the Aztec era, you know? And so it's like,
yeah, I mean, the AVP movies do contradict now because of the prequels.
Yeah.
But previously it was like, oh, it was such a weird way to like continue the lore of the alien xenomorph is through these like action duel movies that aren't very good.
There's a lot of versus movies during this time. Like there was Freddy versus Jason movie. And one of my biggest regrets is a movie that never got made is Ash from Evil Dead. There was supposed to be a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash movie.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I believe it's in Friday the 13th. New Blood. I don't remember.
So like number
the
7.
bad one of the upper end movies. Or is it Jason Goes to Hell? I don't remember. I'm sorry. But regardless, the Necronomicon is in that movie.
Got it.
And that's the one that ends with Freddy's hand coming out of the ground and grabbing Jason's mask. So
yeah,
it's a fun thought that could have been a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash movie.
Yeah, those the 2000s, the knots were very crossover heavy.
Yeah, they were. And it's fun. It's like I feel like it's kind of like it's almost like a multiverse thing, right? It's just like it's kind of works, kind of doesn't, but just like it's in the vein. So
it was very gritty and like, okay, what can we do? What can we throw together?
Yeah.
What kind of studio will give us a license to make something that's like cool? And that was the only basis to like make something happen was like, would this be cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. And now we've talked way more than I thought we would about Alien Requiem.
I know. Yeah.
It's funny. Sometimes the bad ones are more fun to talk about.
Yeah, I agree.
But the last thing I'll say, I did think about a positive thing of Requiem. It cracks me up. But the trailer, the tagline for like the trailer, like the words, I guess not like the tagline, but watching it in the theaters, and this movie came out during Christmas, and it was this Christmas, there will be no peace on earth.
The movie, it's so funny. The movie doesn't take place during Christmas. Like, why?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, wait, are we going to get a Alien movie at Christmas time? Nope,
yeah.
we weren't. It would have been awesome.
Alien versus Predator versus
Claws. Ooh, Claws. Oh, they could call it Claus versus Claus. Like CLAWS
Nice.
versus Santa Claus. Ah. Did we just make $1 billion?
That'd be good.
Hold on.
I think so. I think our movie's going to top Deadpool Wolverine.
TM.
Oh, trademark.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
All right,
so
number 8.
I will go for my number 8. Alien Resurrection.
Oh, interesting.
Is it on your list?
That's higher. That's higher
Okay,
for me.
what's your number 8?
Alien versus Predator, the first one.
It's higher for me.
Okay, so now we are at an impasse. So that was number 8. What's your number 7?
7 is Alien 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Alien Resurrection.
Is that your number 7?
Because that's my
Okay.
number 7. Yeah.
So you start us off. Alien Resurrection. This is the 4th Alien movie in the original wave, release-wise.
So, how to describe in one word? Unnecessary?
The main spoiler alert for 3 and 4. She dies in 3, and they literally
Not only does she,
huh?
yeah, not only does she die, but she sacrifices herself so that the company doesn't get the alien. And then they go, but what if they kind of did?
Yeah, they literally clone her back with the alien back in her. Which
DNA,
it's funny
yes.
because I don't fault the series for this, but if there's one alien to survive or one has something in her chest, it's always going to be a queen. There's always an alien queen left, which, it just cracks me up.
Yeah. Not a whole lot to say about this one. I think this is the one that I have seen the least recently. Does that make sense? Yeah, Winona Ryder, Ron Perlman. Cool. Got it. Just kind of felt unnecessary. It was hard to get around that block during the entire movie. I think 1997 is a really specific era, like the late 90s, where most CGI feels unnecessary and not good. So it's like earlier, like Alien 3, let's say. Oh, you did CGI there because it made the most sense and you want to try and use technology and just to see like what we can do. But like these, like the aliens swimming through the water, or like the scenes where like the aliens climbing up a ladder, and you're like, that whole thing looks like a bad video game, and just pulls you out of the movie. So
it's hard because I think you're right. There's a time when they were switching from practical to digital, and the digital wasn't quite there. And so I think that's a struggle with this movie for sure. But a lot of cool concepts. I would say that about Resurrection, like.
Yeah,
the water scene was a cool thing. Like, imagine being in the water with an alien, I always liked the ladder when they have that one character who's paralyzed, and so he's on the backpack of the other one, and the one guy's climbing up the ladder, and he's like shooting down.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool things, and I like the team up of it. Obviously, for me, it's my second to lowest Alien movie, but there's still a lot of fun.
But there are lots of things to like. Yeah. Okay, all right. So my 8 AVP was higher on your list. We talked about my 7.
So my 7
and your 7
is Alien 3.
Okay, that's higher on my
So what is your...
So we'll save it.
So what's your 7 then?
My 7 was
okay,
Resurrection.
So I'll go to my 6, which is AVP. Yeah. So we can talk about AVP.
Hey, AVP.
And I will say this, I've said this in the pod before, but AVP was my first Alien movie I ever saw. So I think there's definitely...
Dude, that's so
there's
cool.
a lot of nostalgia there. So it's hard for me to kind of differentiate that, but, we recently rewatched it within the past year. And it's like, it's a fun movie. It's for what it is. You know, it is a 2 series coming together, Alien versus Predator. The effects look pretty good. I mean, a lot of the cave alien stuff is really good. Creepy sets. I mean, the beginning with the they're looking through
Antarctica,
abandoned whaling place with they have the oh my gosh, I'm blanking on flares.
There's like a mine shaft.
The flares,
the flares,
just, like,
yes,
cool
really
mood,
good.
red light on snow, and like the hidden predator and aliens and stuff. A lot of cool technology, way over the top with like concept stuff, but in a fun way. Like they're like, all pyramids are basically for predators to hunt aliens, and like even shots that you'll see of like literally thousands of alien swarming predator and stuff, and I'm like, it just looks cool. I'm like, I'm so glad that shot exists in movie culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was interesting that the director of each of the Alien versus Predator movies had a preference over which creature was cooler, and you can tell based on the movie. So like the director of AVP, Paul Anderson, thought that the Predator was like, or let me see if I get this correct. The Predator was way cooler. No. He thought the Alien was way cooler. So when they fight in AVP, the Predator seems a little like dumbed down. Is this accurate? Or am I getting them mixed up?
I don't know. I mean, so the Predator are the good guys for sure in the first one, and they don't feel like they're good guys in the second one, like for as opposed to like saving humans.
Man. Yeah, so it was Requiem, where the alien xenomorphs feel really easy to kill. Right?
Yeah.
Even with the humans killing them, like before they get on the chopper and like working their way through like the town to get out and whatever. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. I saw some people talking about like, oh, you can tell which monster the director thinks is cooler and more powerful in the movie.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between the two. So I guess that's what I'll say.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. I mean, like, man, the beginning of AVP, it's freaky, it's scary. It's like the whole face hugger is such a surreal thing with like the sacrificial, chamber. The moving temple is a really cool idea. It's kind of lame, but kind of cool that Peter Weyland in this movie, one of the Peter Weylands, kills an alien or fights the Predator at least with his inhaler. Remember, he takes the inhaler and he like lights it on fire. It's like, don't turn your back on me. And it's like, I don't think that's how that works. But
wow.
Whatever.
That's just a steroid for your lungs, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a fun one.
I will say I love the connection between Lance Henriksen, the guy who plays Weyland in this movie, and Aliens. Where it's like, okay, he would definitely model an alien after himself, or not an alien, a synthetic human after himself, because he has that kind of hubris.
Yes.
So I felt like having him at play Weyland made a lot of sense. I liked that a lot.
Definitely. And then he plays him in 3 as well. He shows up at the end. But yeah, which that's then Prometheus, I feel like starts kind of changing that quite a bit. So Prometheus is such a weird thing. We'll get there. So what's your number 6 then?
So my number 6 is Covenant.
Ooh. So
is it higher for you?
It's higher for me.
All right. What's your number 6?
That was Alien versus Predator. So
okay.
My number 5 is Alien Covenant. So let's talk about it.
Here we are. Okay, my number 6, your number 5.
Yes. Why don't you start off?
Every time? Is it because I like these movies?
This is your favorite series. I know. Yeah.
I know. So Alien Covenant, was I was able to watch a plethora. I think I watched four Alien movies immediately, like within the first couple months of being introduced to the franchise. This was one of them. So yeah, this was 2017. So I must have been 21 or 22, because it was out, like it was rentable. It was like a couple years out of the theater. It is lower on the list because the story that they were trying to tell with Prometheus, I was actually interested in. And I felt like Alien Covenant was a really poor pivot. One of the first times I experienced like a redirection mid-series, mid-saga, of like, oh, the first one didn't do as well as I thought it would, so we're gonna like change up the story. Like, no, keep telling me the story you want to tell me.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so low on my list. Is it feels like an interruption, and not to mention that they didn't finish. That this was the last one of that saga.
Yeah.
So that makes it feel bad.
I really enjoy Covenant. I think it's a great movie. A lot of the characters are great. Tennessee, Danny McBride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love how it starts off with like there's different creatures doing different things. Like it's not just alien. There's like a bunch of like deadly plants and deadly animals on here, which is kind of just like a cool thing. It's like, of course, the xenomorph would be around other deadly animals. It's not like it's the top of the food chain, but there's other stuff that could do that. But yeah, I agree. We still don't know how this trilogy would have ended, really, because it ends with like David. Is it David or is it?
Yeah, so David and Walter have a fight at the end of Alien Covenant,
and she thinks it's Walter.
She assumes it's Walter until she's going to sleep in the cryo chamber.
Yes.
And she references, "Oh, I'm going to build my cabin. We can build it together." And he's like, "Hey, I don't know what you're talking about." And she's like, "David." And he goes, "Don't let the bedbugs bite." And like closes the door on her.
Yeah. Which I really don't. I want another movie, but I would just love. Yeah. I looked it up, and I don't think there's anything existing that's like, at least tell me how Covenant got into original Alien. You know?
Yeah. So I would love that as well, because the story of, for those who don't know, the story of Prometheus and Covenant. Obviously, this is a very spoiler heavy show, right. So watch these movies. But if you don't care, Prometheus and Covenant explore like where does the xenomorph come from, and ultimately, the xenomorph, as well as all of these humans, are side characters to the story of David. Mm-hmm. Prometheus, trying to attain the level of God, just like David. It's like, I am worth it. I am not only equal to humans, not only equal to the engineers that we're discovering, I am better.
Yeah.
And he's trying to prove that. So that's like a really cool, interesting, overarching story. And I want to see a conclusion, but also I want to see the conclusion of like, David creates the xenomorph. Mm-hmm. He spends years and years and years, and we find out in this movie, Alien Covenant, he spends years aboard a ship and on planet of the engineers' homeworld, like tweaking his perfect organism.
Yeah.
So I want the answer of like, how does it get from just that black goo that the engineers had to the egg that holds the face hugger that is on the ship. So his developed perfect organism that ends up on the engineer's ship, piloted by an engineer.
Right. That crashed.
How does LV 426? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Because he has an engineer that's alive. So you can feel
Where
like,
they were going.
the little sprinkles of like, okay, he's kind of doing this stuff, because the engineer, we'll get to it, but the engineer at the end of Prometheus, he keeps alive. But then Alien Covenant kind of ruins it, and you're like, oh, killed him?
Yeah, I think that's I mean, it's higher on my list. I love it because it is a great horror movie. It's a great alien movie. Like, this thing's going to kill us, but the bummer is it does like kind of take out Shaw. Like, what a wasted character death.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, and then I dissected her too. It's just like, really? That's how she went? And then when he found all the engineers, he was like, nah, I got to wipe them. And then
I killed them all.
so we never got to experience a culture with them. You know, like, oh man, I don't know. I just feel like...
But there's so many shots, like half-second shots of the culture on the engineer planet, which is crazy. That you would, like, we know the engineers as what they would call the gardener. So the absolutely jacked, ripped guy at the beginning of Prometheus.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But the people who would drink the stuff, the black goo, and sacrifice themselves to create life, let's say, on Earth, in this franchise, those are called gardeners. So we assume as fans that they're biologically engineered to be the top of the top, the peak organism. That's why they look so good, whatever.
The Olympian of the race.
The Olympians, basically. So then we actually see different body types while he's flying over them. You see half-second clips. Different body types, different clothing. Their eyes are like human eyes. They're not all blacked out. You see elderly, you see young. And there's like a woman in like extravagant clothes. Like she's like a queen, or at least like a motherly figure, grandmother figure. So you're like, oh, what stories can she tell? And then David's like, I killed them all.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
It was funny because I would have rather we didn't know about them, but then like, oh yeah, they were right here, but I killed them all. It's like, that's...
Yeah, look how cool they are. Done.
Which is cool because then we learned that, like, that's why the one engineer they woke up was so aggressive, because he is basically a suicide scientist. Like
he's a devotee. Yeah. Like he knows what he's supposed to do and he will do it.
So he's a
kamikaze.
Wakes up and it's like, oh, this isn't right. So I got to fix this.
But it's also crazy because at what point, like, they could have given us the political system of the engineers, because at what point do they go from creating life to we need to go back to Earth and destroy all of humanity? Like, is that a loose faction? Are those extremists among the engineers where they're like, we need to go kill the humans and the rest of the planet doesn't agree? Yeah. Or like, what's going on there? There's so many theories. There's so many cool things.
And you get
I felt like Covenant...
nothing. You lose.
Nothing. I felt like you lose. I felt like Covenant just did not deliver on all of the plethora of questions that I wanted answers to after Prometheus.
Which is funny, hearing us talk about it, we bring up more negatives, but I think it's because it's a wasted opportunity, and we didn't get another one. And I think we would have been a lot more content. Like, I still love the movie. Like I said, I mean, at its core, it goes horror. It's great. You know, it's very suspenseful, well acted, looks awesome. You know, so it's like there's a lot of good. I think our negative, though, is we didn't get the answers we wanted in this one, and then we didn't get a follow up to
answer the questions that it raises.
Yeah.
So not only does it not answer questions from its previous installment, it asks more questions, and we also don't get answers to those.
Yeah,
man. Shame that.
But I think, like I said, that's why we talked in our last episode about how it's cool, because like it's not cool, but well, for me it's cool. For you, it's not that. The Acolyte got canceled. Andrew's bummed, and I'm like, sweet. Because I do watch every Star Wars show, so it's like, oh, good, one less thing I have to do.
It's a requirement. So that was my number 6. Your number 5.
Yes.
Unless, do you have something else you want to say about Covenant?
No. I feel like you
Okay.
threw me off. I threw
So
myself off with my joke, and I was going to say something, but it's gone now. So it's all right. So what's your number 5 then?
Yeah. So my number 5 is Alien 3.
Oh, okay. So this was my number 7. So let's talk about it.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
I
You
was
go
going to
first
say,
this time.
to give you a break. You may now sip your beverage.
Thank you.
Like, I don't know if like those who are watching our video, we usually are sipping on something as part of our pod, and it cracks me up because you're drinking. What are you drinking right now?
It's
Okay,
just
so
bourbon.
just real classy guy having a glass of bourbon. Heath
Bourbon
is
on the
drinking
rocks with-
Sunny D seltzer. Just a little.
Yeah,
that tells you everything you need to know about our personality.
There you go. And look at us, best friends.
Best friends
Man.
making a cake. Yes. Okay. So Alien 3. I like this movie a lot. I think it's weird. They took some bold things that when I was watching this, so I watched AVP first, and then I went 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 was such a bummer because I watched Aliens right into Alien 3. Really liked Hicks,
Oh, sure.
Bishop, Newt. Start off 3. They're all dead. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So,
Disappointing
yeah.
deaths again.
So actually, I believe we watched this movie together for your first time. Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Like 2.5 years ago,
That was
3
fun. You're
years
like,
ago.
Actually, I've never seen Alien 3. It's like, we should watch it together. We actually tried to do an episode. We tried to do a commentary to it, and unfortunately, my audio didn't record, so it was lost to time.
Just Andrew talking every 15 to 10 minutes. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's hard to do a commentary, especially because you hadn't seen it before, so I was able to do some stuff. But the funny part about Covenant, though, or sorry, not Covenant. I always want to call this one Covenant, but Alien 3 is in, you noticed it when we watched it, is they're drinking the space cups, quote unquote, are mini French presses with just like the top clipped off. So I threw Andrew a diaper party, and I bought you a mini French press to drink out of that night.
It was
and
great.
We
still
made
have it.
alien secretion is the cocktail, and it looks like alien blood, and it's
Yeah. Why am I not drinking
You
out of
should
that
be, you
right
should
now?
be. And it's got Midori in it, and I think Andrew, tell us about your Midori thoughts right now.
I'll never do that again.
That
was a lot.
Midori. It's a very sugary liqueur, but
It was.
so yeah, Alien 3, it's interesting because I like the bold choice they took about like killing off these characters, and like that to me, I don't know if they couldn't get the actors back, but I hope, and it felt like to me like that's not the story we want to tell, or they don't connect with this, so we want to do our own thing. We want to get Ripley back on her own, which, man, the first 3 Alien movies are so different. It's so interesting. Ripley is so different in all of them. But it's a solid movie. I think it's a really well done one, very different, with the kind of prisoner colony. What do you love about this movie?
I love. There's that iconic shot, obviously, of Ripley with the alien getting just so close and like screaming at her, and she's sweating and like. So there's that, which I believe did not show up in the final cut of the original movie.
Interesting.
Did you know that? So when it was released, that scene was used promotionally to like in trailers for the movie. But they didn't have permission, something about like the Writers Guild, the union. She wasn't Sigourney Weaver wasn't allowed to be on set any longer under her contract. So David Fincher and Sigourney Weaver were like, screw it, we're going to record this anyway because it's going to be tight. It's going to pop off. And it sure did. So I think it made it into like later cuts of the movie, but it was not in the theatrical release.
There's a lot of
fun
cuts to this one. This is one of those movies that's kind of hard to find the theatrical cut, or like you at least see. You're more likely, at least as much likely to find the director cut. as opposed to the theatrical.
Another thing I liked about this movie was, I just was reminded of the poster tagline: 3 times the suspense, 3 times the danger, 3 times the terror. So funny. They really went a new and fresh route, I think, with this one. So Aliens, same. I mean, Alien was a spaceship. Aliens, LV-426, put a spacesuit on, blast them out, or like mech suit, go back. There's like a common theme of Ripley getting to safety, and then, which this happens in Romulus as well, we'll talk about it, but Ripley getting to safety and then saying, hold on, there is someone that I have to go back for, not because they love me, but because I love them. Which is a great theme. I love that theme. And Alien 3 is just kind of like, you just blow it all up. Like, you just burn it all down. And yeah, so it is refreshingly different, but not as good as the first 2 installments, I'll say.
Yeah, it's hard because, like, man, you're following up one of the best sequels of all time, and that's really hard to follow. And I was just talking to a friend about this. It's interesting how the Alien movies do kind of go either horror heavy or action heavy. They kind of keep tilting back and forth, which is kind of a fun way. So, and I'm more of a horror fan than a straight up action movie, but I love some action beats in this, you know. We did talk about bad CG, and the door with the xenomorph is some pretty rough xeno in there, but it's a really solid movie. I think it's a solid entry, and especially coming from 2 incredible movies, it's a really good sequel, you know. Well, cool. Anything else to say about Alien 3?
No. So yeah, Alien 3 was my 5, your 7.
So we did mine. So
wow, so low for you.
Yeah, I just don't love it as much. You know, I think it's tough because honestly, like I said, Requiem is the only one I really dislike on this list.
Right.
And
so
it's more of it's like, how much do I love it? Kind of for this list for me. So now we're gonna go to my number 4, and I find this is really interesting because I'm really curious what your lineup is gonna be. My number 4 is Alien Romulus.
Oh, really?
Because yours,
mine's higher.
Okay,
Romulus is higher.
That's what I thought. So Romulus, the reason I watched Aliens is I needed to know where that one would stack up within this. Sure. So, like, I mean, I loved Romulus, and we'll talk about it soon. But what is your number 4 then?
My number 4 is Prometheus.
That's higher for me.
Ooh.
So
we save both of those, and we go on to the next number.
But number 3 for me is Prometheus. So let's talk about Prometheus.
Number 3 for me is Romulus.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Prometheus first?
Yeah, let's do Prometheus first, and then we'll talk.
Okay. All right.
Romulus.
So
Rocket.
Prometheus, Prometheus is separated, like, number 4 for me, it's separated by its sequel by a whole space. So 4 is Prometheus, 6 is Covenant. I thought Alien 3 was better than the sequel to Prometheus. Prometheus is pretty high among, like, it was between this and Alien 3 for the number 4 spot. I went with Prometheus because as a fan of, like, in my 20s, a developing fan of this franchise, to watch Prometheus, which looked really, really good, was impressive and very attractive to me, but it also asked questions that I had never considered. Because I watched the first 4 movies so fast that I didn't sit with much. And I found that the questions Prometheus asked were better than what I could have come up with. Does that make sense? I'm like, oh, that is a really interesting point. Oh, wow. Like, what does it look like when you have Alien and Aliens, which is like truckers in space, Marines in space. Space travel is so easy that we can kind of have like rickety trucker spaceships. Versus Prometheus is like, if you're gonna get to space, you have to have cutting edge technology. You have to have the best of the best. And everyone has to be a scientist devoted to a certain craft in order to like make it worth it, to pull your body weight, basically.
Yeah.
And that is such a different story to tell. So I really liked it. Like, I think I like Prometheus more than the average Alien fan.
Same. I love Prometheus. It's, obviously it's my number 3. And I think a lot of people don't. And I get it because it's very philosophical. It's very lore heavy. It's very, which is cool because I think Alien, they haven't really taken that much time to explain lore. You get little tidbits. I mean, there wasn't even a queen in 1. There's eggs, facehuggers, and then xenomorphs. And then in 2, there's actually a queen, and she's the one laying the eggs, and blah blah, and different stuff like that, hive mentality. But then this one is just like so much stuff of like, what does this mean, and what do we think about that, and like Peter Wayland, and like, which is like, I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff, which is a bummer because we don't get answers to everything. But it is such a fun movie. It looks cool. The spaceships, the planet, like, man, this movie just like, it's a beautiful movie. It really is. It just like the contrast between these beautiful lit areas, these cool ships, and then this like dark, messed up, like the black goo, and just like these crazy creatures. I love the juxtaposition of just like this awesome, beautiful spaceship with, shiny buttons, and then you've got this crazy snake that just jumps out of the water and tries to kill you. Like, it's like this, like, the best of the world and like the worst of, I don't know. It's just, it is such a good movie. I love Prometheus.
Yeah. So my faults in my audio only reaction of Romulus, we're switching around some plot points of Covenant and Prometheus. And I mixed in Prometheus, it is only the black goo that is the biological weapon. And it's in Covenant that David has developed spores and infects some people through the spores.
Oh, yeah.
So that was one that I mixed up. Additionally, in Prometheus, the elected Caesarian that Shaw goes under, I said that was a xenomorph that came out of her, and it was not. It was like that squid, like trilobite thing, which that was just something I misremembered, but still a testament to like the story that they were going to tell of like, hey, even though this is the same biological weapon that we are dealing with, like we're talking about through the whole franchise, David has a lot of work to do, that's what made this movie so intriguing for me. It's like David is going to do so much work to get it to his perfect organism, and I want to see like what he comes up with. So, and I was really intrigued.
It's interesting. I remember thinking that when I was listening to your review, I was like, no, it wasn't the alien yet, because that would have been so perfect. And I love Covenant. I'm glad they made Covenant. Yeah. But if Prometheus had ended with, so she cuts that thing that she was infected with out of her body, which is a crazy scene. She goes into her own, like the surgical chair, chooses a, this operation to cut this thing out. And it's this like crazy squid alien thing. The squid attacks an engineer, and then it has a chest burster. And if we've just seen an engineer ship crash, and if this is an alien queen that comes out of her, done. It's perfect. It's like, this is LV 426. That's the crashed engineer ship. We're going right into the movie Alien. And it's not. It's an alien.
You're like, oh, I thought
Yeah.
that was a home
It's
run.
an alien like. It's a xenomorph like. I think there's a name for it. I can't remember, but it's not quite a xenomorph.
Yeah, it's like a neomorph or something like that.
Which
yeah.
is like, oh, why? It's just like, it seems like just like a side thing. It doesn't even connect to anything. And Covenant didn't do anything with that
Yeah.
being, which is weird because David was like, oh, we need to make different stuff. Because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. This biological weapon infected a human, and that human produced this creature. That creature infected the engineer, and that's where xenomorphs come from. Nope, just kidding.
Right. Nope.
That was meaningless.
It's actually, it's only adjacent.
And that feels like, I love Ridley Scott, but I think he is definitely style and visual over substance sometimes. And that just seems like such a Ridley Scott thing to do, is just be like, this is cool, so I put it in there. And that's one of the reasons I love Prometheus, because it's like, it looks cool, but wish there was a little more substance to that.
Yeah.
And another thing that I love about Prometheus, and it's a bummer about Covenant, is it ends with Shaw, who I love her character. I love her questions. You know, she's like, what made us? Why are we here? Which is very normal, you know, questions. And then they find out the engineers made them. And then she's like, but who made the engineers? Like, it's like this seeking. And then David gets decimated, except for his head. And then so she just has the head of this android and her, and she's like, I'm going to go to the engineer homeworld. And that sets up cool journey. And then, nope, never saw her again. You know, and it's
like, how long did you spend in that spaceship?
Yeah.
Did you bond? And David in Covenant, David kind of hints to Walter.
Yeah.
Right? That is like, oh, Shaw and I really grew to love each other. Or like, we grew a connection, and I loved her, he says. And Walter is like, you loved her. Yeah, I'm a later model than you, and they got rid of that flaw. You're too human. He tells him, like, they put too much human emotion capacity for emotion in you, and they took that out of me, and that's why I'm better than you. And David's like, oh, am I going to kill you now?
And you're dead.
You're dead.
All right, anything more to say about Prometheus?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I was very hopeful for that one.
It's great.
But
It's a great
that's
one.
all.
All right, so now we're going to get down to our... no, we need to talk about Romulus. So this was my number 4. This is your number 3.
Yep.
I loved it. We haven't talked about this. I love
Same.
Romulus.
Dude, I loved it so
It's
much.
my number 4, and I literally was just struggling with, like, I've only seen it once, and I could see this taking... I just feel like I have such a love of Prometheus. I don't think it's going to edge out Prometheus for me, but I've had so much time with Prometheus, I could see it. But I'm like, that's why I rewatched Aliens.
Gotta watch it again.
Solidify this list. And yeah, Alien Romulus was such a good, well done, well acted, scary, freaking terrifying,
so scary
ending creature, specifically stuff of nightmares,
dude.
So I've heard a little bit, but just like, what's your rundown of, like, why is this your number 3?
It's my number 3. It is definitely, in my opinion, obviously because it's number 3, it is the best modern installment for this series. Last episode we talked about what does it take for a project to be in the Star Wars universe for me. I said sound design, set design. This hit those for me just head on. Like, it sounded like Alien, it looked like Alien. You can do whatever you want with the characters. You can do whatever you want with the alien. I don't care how you get the alien there. It's there. It sounds like it. It looks like it. Oh, man, it was so good. I loved the acting. David, I mentioned in the audio only, David Johnson just absolutely shined. And I think we have an opportunity here where they can tell the overarching story of the company through David Johnson, through Andy, or models like him, like they tried to do with David, and they just didn't have a cohesive story. So if there's gonna be more movies off of Romulus, I think David Johnson has to be in them because he was outstanding.
I thought it was Fetty Good.
Fetty Good. Yeah.
Director, of course, Fetty Alvarez.
Yeah. How long have you
I actually tried it night of, and no one laughed then either, but I'm going to keep trying it. It's a joke that I love.
It'll stick.
And I'm going to keep trying it until maybe I'll go to an alien convention and
just start. Would you say that movie was Fetty Good?
Did you say Alien Romulus is Fetty Good? Oh my gosh, I think I said it at a grad party too. I might have used that. That might be the third time I've used that joke. Oops.
Wow. You're getting
getting
old.
That's just more of me trying to workshop my material, and for some reason I'm stuck on the one that's not really funny. So no, Romulus, I think it's getting a lot of love. Low budget. It was like an $80 million budget, and it's doing really well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this summer is actually turning out to a pretty cool turnout. Like we talked about such a low holiday season, and like Furiosa, and like some movies you'd think would be winners, like a sequel to like a great movie like Furiosa, and then like a Garfield movie came out, and there was so many like, man, what's gonna get people back to the theaters? And I think we're seeing it, which was awesome. Like obviously just small snapshot of the world, but my theater was packed for Alien. My theater was packed for Alien, Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, when my wife went to the theater for It Ends With Us, you know, it's like, man, it's like there's some movies. I think people just need to change. It's just what people thought were going to be wins. Like people didn't go see. And I love it when a movie that I love from a series that I love brings in money. That is so fun, you know?
Yeah.
The director has said there's no rush for doing a sequel. He's not, but obviously it kind of depends on when, you know, is he going to do a sequel? It depends on if they have a story. Is he going to direct it? You know, there's a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of repeat directors. I think Ridley Scott is the only repeat director in any Alien movies.
Oh, that's
which is crazy. We'll get to the original one, but he did Alien and then Prometheus and Covenant, right? Did he do Covenant?
Yep,
he did. Which is
I believe so. Let's see.
I know he did Prometheus. Okay,
Yeah,
so that which is so crazy to me too that he literally started this off directing it in 1979, walked away from it for decades, and then was like, I'm going to bring back a prequel, and then that prequel is going to have a sequel. It was just like, that's such an interesting way to do it. Well, we are running super long in this episode, so if you're still with us, hey, how's it going? Well, so let's keep moving here. What else do you have about? Do you have more about Romulus? We also were going to do a whole episode on Romulus at some point because I think we loved it so much. But
I will say that the hate that those criticisms that I've heard, I don't even agree with, which is interesting. Like usually you can find some common ground, but I've heard some people that were fans during the 90s and the release of like Resurrection and the AVP movies, and they were like, one specifically I heard was like, don't give me like dialogue callbacks, I hate those. Don't give me music callbacks. Like when the movie starts off and it has the original Alien soundtrack as you find that xenomorph that Ripley kills or sends out into space. He was like mad about that. He was like, "What? You just pandering to me, like just complaining about the studio, like tuning into what he's familiar with." And I enjoyed that, like legitimately. I was okay with the dialogue callbacks. Could have done without them, you know, whatever. But I liked the music callbacks because it sounds like Alien, right? And I was just overwhelmingly pleased. I think Rook could have had less screen time / talking time. Like Ian Holmes' Rook should have been in it less, but that I think is a little.
I did have something I wanted to bring up to you that you don't know. Or at least you didn't know this when you recorded your episode. Ian Holm is no longer with us. Yeah, so he died in 22, I think. And I heard you say that, and you were like, I hope they got Ian Holm to voice him. I'm like, oh, my sweet baby dear. I'm sorry.
But he didn't look up Ian Holmes' IMDb. That's so sad. I had no idea. So his whole voice was like AI generated?
I don't know, but it had to either be outtakes or AI. So, yeah.
Whoa.
Which I think that was the worst part of the movie, visually, is his digital face.
Yeah, because they didn't have a performance to base the CGI
But
off of.
here's the thing. I wish they would have gone practical and do like a skin mask that slightly resembles Ash. But it's like clearly like coming off because like that's classic Android. It is a mask.
Yeah, just prop up the Android.
So I wish that I think that would have made it look a lot better personally. But
I'd be interested to see like the behind the scenes and see if if they had the physical robot there that looked like him, and they went practical with it, and they if they had the Fede practical effects,
it would be Fede good.
No, I would be interested to see like how good the physical prop looked, because if it looks even a little bit okay, it was probably better than the digital. To be honest,
we are going to do a whole episode on this at some point, but. Wow. Also, I have to say real quick, the ending creature, terrifying. My theater, the audience audibly gasped, like huge intake.
Yeah. When it's creeping up behind her and you just go, oh,
this is definitely like the stuff of nightmares. This is like, I think who knows what kind of, how long this movie will be big. Like you never know exactly if this is just kind of like a quick upturn and a bunch of people liked it and then it never heard about it. But like if this is a movie that's going to last, I feel like this creature is going to go down as like one of the most terrifying movie creatures. It is just
disgusting and grotesque. But also that jump scare
at the end
was genuinely got me. I was like, oh, that scared me so good. All right, that's enough of
All right, let's say our 2 and then our 1 together. So I'll say my number 2 is, and then we'll say blank and blank. Ready? So our top 2 are Aliens and Alien. Yeah, so it's so much to love. And that's the end
of the show. See you later.
We are going way over time, but if you're still listening to us,
I know it's a little bonus.
And I don't want to shortchange these movies, but yeah, Aliens, one of the most popular sequels of all time, highest rated. I mean, this is definitely one for me. When people talk about sequels, which we have a whole episode on sequels, you should check that out. When people talk about sequels, and sometimes people don't like to say Star Wars because it's a trilogy, like it's a 3-part thing, which I would always argue, but like they didn't know it was going to be a trilogy when they started. So like Empire is a sequel, but that would be one of them too. But then even in every conversation, like Terminator 2 and like Aliens are such classic examples of good sequels. Both of us put Alien first, but a lot of people would say they like Aliens better than Alien.
Yeah. That's a respectable answer. I feel like that's okay because they're so different that one could appeal to that person over the other. Both are phenomenal movies. I lean more horror, and maybe you feel this way as well. Whereas that makes me connect with Alien as a very original, very good story that looks amazing, sounds so cool. The premise is outstanding, and then Aliens is like, okay, we know that world, we know all that stuff. What if it was like an action, just shoot everything type of movie? which is really fun and cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Aliens is faster. It's definitely like a great 1-2 punch too. Like I think when you're watching them back to back, it's such a fun marathon. I always think about that too. Like I love movie marathons, and like that's such a fun way to do that. Like if you're like, I'm going to watch 2 movies back to back, like Alien into Aliens is so fun because it picks up. It's lighter, I would say, more action. You know, the Colonial Marines are so interesting. Just like that whole setup. It takes Ripley's story, and I think Ripley really develops in Alien, and I think it's such a cool continuation of her character. It doesn't feel like we reset back to like she was a little more tame in the beginning of Alien. You know, she wasn't the captain. She wasn't asserting herself as much. She did, you know, especially around like the engineers and stuff. But then like she basically, especially because she has to take command by the end of Alien, and then she's the only one left. By Aliens, it feels like she is so much like confident in what she knows and who she is. That character development is so good, you know. Like she's always the one. She's never like, "What do we do?" She was like, "We got to do this. Listen to me," you know. And the corporation idea is really cool too. Just like that they want to go and study this creature for its military applications or whatever.
Yep. You got to promise me we're going to destroy.
Yeah.
Not to study, not to bring back.
You have my word.
Nice.
There was, this is another resurrection thing. Alien resurrection thing that I thought was in this that I was missing. When the guys came in to get coffee with Ripley and were like, "Hey, you should come back. We want you as an advisor to go to LV 426."
Yeah. LV 426.
I never remember the number, and you always remember because that's perfect.
I got it.
They give coffee. It's like a futuristic, you know, kind of thing. And I'm like, "Oh, is this the whiskey cube?" No. And then it's Alien Resurrection when the guy takes like a little, like it looks like a Keurig kind of like wrapper cup, and it's a little cube.
Okay.
He puts it under a laser and it makes whiskey. It's one of those things. It's like it's completely unnecessary. Like they just wanted to be like, "This is future," you know. And for some reason we drink whiskey cubes, or they come in cubes.
It's all dehydrated. Yeah.
Your food is ready. Back to the Future pizza. Anyways, do you have anything else to say about Alien? I feel like we're both getting a little tired, but this is an amazing movie.
I could talk forever and ever about it. I will say I referenced earlier something about Romulus, Alien, and Aliens that I want to mention. I love the plot rhythm, or like the plot point of strong female protagonist survives the perfect killing organism and gets to safety and then stops, turns around and goes back for not something that she gets love from, not someone that loves her necessarily, but someone that needs her, someone that she loves. And I think that is one of the most beautiful human plot points in all of cinema and all of film, to empathize with whoever it is, with Ripley, or you empathize with Rain. Like, Ripley goes back. There are some people who have a cat who legitimately would turn around for a cat. It gets elevated. There are some people who have kids. You would turn around and you would go get your kid. And Rain, goes back for Andy, who's biologically not related to her.
Wow. I never even saw that similarity.
But she stops in safety. She's going to safety in the elevator, and she's like, "I can't do this. He means too much to me for me to just leave him to die." And just turns around. She doesn't get anything from it. Like, he's not like, "Oh, good thing you came here because I have the key to the door," like whatever. She went back because she loves him. And that I just loved that they
What a
included
cool theme that is in all three of those: Romulus, Aliens, and Alien.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's the cat in the first one. You know, and it's the it's it's Newt. That's interesting that you bring that up about Romulus too, because especially that is the point where Andy is kind of possessed still, or he was possessed before he starts convulsing on the ground. So she,
he had the AI
so
update.
it's like it's not even like he's back to his normal self that she knew. And yeah, last thing I'll say about Aliens too, it's like it ends with a giant alien queen fighting Ripley in a giant mech. Like, awesome. I'm all about it. It's so fun.
Yeah. Can't get past that. That's so
all right.
cool.
Let's talk Alien. Top on both of our list. 1979. We brought this up before in a previous episode. How this movie is always surprising that it's still in the 70s. It feels like an 80s movie. The quality is there. It just feels like an 80s movie. You know.
It does. I think that the what they do in the beginning, where they're all talking with each other, just like the actors are ad-libbing, poking fun, and like it's just a loud atmosphere, is super 80s. And this is an example of like setting a trend that would go into the 80s.
And man, talk about that opening scene when they're all just like waking up from the pods. It's very slow. Like it is definitely a slow start. Like waking up slowly. It's not like blah action beat. Let's go. It's just like let's get to know these characters. They have breakfast together, but it's like very. I think they did a lot of ad-libbing in that, and it's cool because it feels like we really get to know these characters very well, and we care. There's sometimes especially like I stood out for like Covenant, or even Romulus, where a character dies and I'm like, I don't know who that is. Or it's tempting, which I love. I do love that about Romulus. I feel like the one who got the chest burster and Romulus, what was their name?
Yeah.
Remember?
That was Navarro.
Okay. So I'm a friend of Dave Navarro's. He seems like a pretty cool dude. That I didn't really know her very well. It felt like she wasn't very fleshed out. But at the same time, I love how they kept it small. I feel like Covenant, sometimes they're like, we just want to have a lot of deaths, so we have soldiers with us.
Right.
But then Aliens does this too, is we know those soldiers pretty dang well before they start, meeting their maker or their engineer, if you will.
Yep.
But in Alien, we know these people so well. So many of the interactions. I mean, what was it? Bert, who's your boy? Who are the two engineers? I'm blanking on all these character names.
Oh, like the mechanics?
Your guys, Brett and
Brett.
Who's the other guy? Bandana Boy.
Yeah, so Harry Dean Stanton is Brett, and Yaphet Kotto is Parker.
That's
so Brett and Parker.
Yeah. Like their interaction with Ripley is like when they've got the pump on, or even their back conversation. They're like, it's gonna take 20. What does he say? It's gonna take 16 hours. Like it's gonna take 20 hours. Like you get who these guys are.
Yeah.
They're like, don't tell the man.
So
don't tell the man it's gonna take that long. It's gonna take this long. Stuff like that. Just like, man, all these characters, their roles. It starts it off so positively.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone is so solidly in their role. You just get a real sense of, they're space truckers and space travel is easy now, but there's still a reason everyone is there. Everyone serves a purpose. So you feel that loss, not only because of the sense of camaraderie, but you feel the loss because of like the jobs. Like, the chances of like getting through back to Earth without your captain, much slimmer.
And we'll dive. We want to do an episode on Alien as well, like a full on episode. But it's the next thing, obviously they go to the planet, and it's just we're discovering all these things because they're just like truckers in space, and then they go into like we got to check out the ship because the company has ordered us to check out anything, and then obviously all heck breaks loose. The face hugger, like everything that happens is so interesting, and they take time to show everything. These are all new concepts, new ideas. The acid for blood, the face hugger, all of this thing, and like the alien, like all these things are like wild and crazy, especially when there's nothing before this. Like there's no book,
right?
There's no adaptation. Like this is in somebody's brain, and that's messed up.
Yeah, it is. What's the guy that did all the
H.R. Giger?
Geiger or something? Giger. That dude is actually
it's
messed
insane.
up.
Look up H.R. Giger's artwork, and he did all the creature design, and I'm gonna get a little blue, but all of his stuff is so somehow phallic and vaginal at the same time. Like it is just like,
yeah,
this looks. It is just crazy, disgusting, weird creature designs.
Yes, and like to tie it back to Romulus, Giger, like he does the grotesque really well. Alien is grotesque. That's like, I think the franchise is at its best when it's in horror, and it has a great opportunity for the disgusting and the grotesque. And I will say this will be my last comment, and it is a little dark, like very dark. So, I thought, I was listening to someone talk about Romulus and the original Alien movie, and that these movies connect with them as some of the most horrific and scariest because of Giger's art that led, like visually, that led the movie to go, like, to be honest, like very vaginal and phallic. And in the horror realm, this person was like, these movies connect with me on a horror level because there's nothing scarier than, like, in a word, sexual assault and murder.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what the perfect organism does, is like it violates you and then you die. And if we're going to talk about premises for the scariest thing that could possibly be imagined, that's it for me. So we don't usually get that, like, I mean, I'm still hesitant to like say words, but like we don't usually get that spooky. And
spooky. That pulls up the. We're just having fun. It's spooky
I know
movies.
You can tell I'm uncomfortable with it because it's like we don't usually talk like that, but
yeah,
it's a horror movie. I think all of these movies except for AVP, the first one, are rated R. So,
and there's a reason.
Yeah,
very much a reason.
It's scary.
Yeah, and I think this movie is really cool because it does kind of dominate the horror genre. This was a super fun ranking because we got to kind of talk a little bit about each one, and we'd love to kind of dive deeper into a lot of these movies. I think we should at least do a Romulus and an Alien, but I mean, I would have fun talking about each of these movies. Just like we're still doing this, decades to come, we'll hit all these movies for sure. But let's real quick to close up. We've got a super long episode, but we love Aliens, so this was a fun time doing it. Let's real quick. I just want to reiterate our lists. So I'm going to read mine from best to least favorite.
Great.
And then I'd love you to do the same. So my number one down was Alien, Aliens, Prometheus, Alien Romulus, Alien Covenant, Alien vs. Predator, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, and Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Nice. Okay. My list was number one down, Alien, Aliens, Alien Romulus, Prometheus, Alien 3, Alien Covenant, Alien Resurrection, Alien vs. Predator, and lastly, Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Requiem sucks.
Yeah. You're here.
And how cool is it too that like this is such a long series, but
Yeah.
Alien Romulus made a top spot on both of our lists.
Yeah,
you know,
amazing.
And like it's 4 on mine, 3 on yours, but like the ones that beat it are some of the best horror. I mean, best space horror of all time.
Oh yeah.
Some of the best horror of all time. So it's just that's cool. All right. Well, thanks. If you're still listening, thanks for staying with us. Some of our episodes are in 30 minutes, and we're at an hour and a half.
I know.
Here's a bonus episode for you.
Just couldn't shut us up.
We just couldn't, you know. So, yeah, take us home, Andrew.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for watching if you're on our YouTube channel. Hey, did you know you can find us on YouTube? Subscribe. You can also find us on Spotify or anywhere you get podcasts. Give a little follow on that format, and you get notified when we post an episode. Follow us on Instagram as well. You can interact with our posts there. Helps us get a feeler, a gauge out for what the listeners want to hear and what they want us to talk about. So, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Go see a movie.
Go see a movie.